Welcome, everybody, to the International Magazine. I'm your host, Ed Ferraro, and today I'll be speaking with Dr. Aqel Taqaz, who currently serves as the International Secretary for the Palestinian People's Party. Dr. Taqaz has been an active member of the Global Left for many years. He is a coordinator for the Palestinian Committee for World Peace and Solidarity on the World Peace Council, and he's served all of the posts that he currently is on with years of distinction and dedication. So we're happy to have him with us today. So welcome again, Dr. Taqaz. Okay.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
No, thank you. It's an honor to talk with you. So if you could just give us a very quick rundown as to what the Palestinian People's Party is and how it came to be. It's one of the oldest, not only communist organizations, but also just in general parties in all of Palestine. Is that correct?
Yes, it's right. The Palestinian People's Party is the continuation of the Palestinian Communist Party, which was established in 1919 with the name of Palestinian Socialist Party, then established with the help of Jewish communists who immigrated to Palestine in the first years of the century after the victory of October Revolution in Russia. And it was a party including Jewish and Palestinians, Arab and Jewish as members. And 1924 became a member of the Comintern. And then, as you know, Palestine then, after the First War, was under the British mandate. There was a such of troubles with the England colonial forces who were helping the migration of Jews to Palestine, and some conflicts started between Palestinians and settlers. Settlers were backed by the English forces, and in 1929 there was a big revolution and big conflict. 1936 it was a biggest revolution and a long strike in Palestine, which was for 6 months until the beginning of the Second War. And then the Palestinian People's Party had some serious problems internal between Jews and Arab members. Then 1945, the Arabs in the party established the Palestinian coalition, such as, which became the Palestinian Communist Organization. And after the Second War and after control of Jordan on West Bank, Palestinian communists with Jordanian communists, 1951 created the Jordanian Communist Party, and the part inside Israel became a part of the Israeli Communist Party. The Palestinian communist in Gaza Strip remains as Palestinian Communist Party as in Gaza, as Gaza was under control of Egypt. In the mid of 70s, there was effort to recreate a Palestinian Communist Party, creation an organization of Palestinian communists inside the Jordanian Communist Party. And 1982, the re-established of the Palestinian Communist Party with unification of all communists inside West Bank and Gaza. And 1991 in the Congress, the Third Congress, they changed the name to Palestinian People's Party, which is until now Palestinian People's Party.
How has your party responded to the ever-changing material conditions in Palestine today? Because as we were talking about just before we started recording, the situation has changed dramatically, even over the course of just the last year. What is the party's current position then on What is unfolding in Palestine? What do you foresee as a solution?
You know that after the first Palestinian uprising, Intifada 1987, there was a hope that some kind of solution will be a reality in Palestine. And the Palestinian leadership, 1988, in the National Council in Algeria, accepted to establish a Palestinian state in West Bank and Gaza. And on this basis, there was an effort from international community, and there was some negotiations leading to Oslo Agreement 1993, which was an agreement to be ended in 1999 with a solution for all aspects of the Palestinian issue, including borders, including Jerusalem, security, refugees, and all aspects of the Palestinian issue. But unfortunately, Israel used this Oslo Accords to as a public relation, and they continued to implement their plans and their strategy for annexation more and more Palestinian land, for establishing and building more and more settlements, and they reached to today's government to ignore and to refuse any kind of Palestinian independence, and they don't want to talk even for any Palestinian state, as the international community is supporting the two-state solution, which the leadership of Palestinian movement is accepting the two-state solution to achieve the independent Palestinian state within the borders of 1967 with East Jerusalem as its capital, and the right of refugees to return homes according to the 194 resolution of General Assembly of 1948. But Israel is during these all years, Israel was talking about the possibility of solution. Sometimes they talk about the two-state solution, but now Netanyahu, with this extreme government with fascist members, is saying that no possibility for any Palestinian state. And Smotrich, as a member of his government, is saying that now Palestinians has three choices: or to be killed, or to accept to be under Israeli occupation, or to migrate outside of Palestine. It means that this government is not willing to discuss any political solution. And you can see that during the last 6-7 years, from the beginning of Trump's administration in the United States, which was the most extreme policy against Palestinians, there was no political process, no negotiations, and now all the promises of Biden's administration to change, we didn't see anything. He promised to open the consulate in East Jerusalem, but nothing to open the representative office of PLO in Washington, nothing. And they are opposing any effort from international community and United Nations to go forward for any solution. And if you remember, also Trump was recognizing also Golan Heights under sovereignty of Israel, which is a Syrian, and Israel is still occupying Palestine, occupying Golan Heights, and occupying parts of Lebanon in Sheba Farms. And unfortunately, until now, there is no any indication about any progress for solution. Our party is still supporting the two-state solution, but unfortunately, this solution is losing ground because of the behavior of Israeli policy and settlements and annexation of Palestinian land, practically there is no place where the Palestinian state can be established under this situation where in West Bank now there is more than 700 settlers in many parts of West Bank, and they are continuing the siege of Gaza with more than 5 wars against Gaza by Israeli different governments, because we know that in Israel persons can be changed, governments can be changed, but the Israeli policy toward the Palestinians is the same aggressive policy, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's very hard not to be cynical when we see these mass protests in the settler entity from settlers who are crying that Netanyahu is dismantling, Israeli democracy, when in actuality, as you're saying, there's never been a functioning democracy for anyone who is not a settler within the Israeli
You know
borders.
the Israeli Knesset passed a law which was called the nationality law, which gives the possibility for self-determination in Palestine only for Jews, which cannot be a democratic state. Killing Palestinian every day is not a democracy. Killing Arabs inside Israel, who are citizens of Israel, cannot be democratic state. Now, as you see, every Saturday in Israel, there is huge demonstrations inside the community, Jewish community in Israel, against the laws about the judge in Israel, which will become a theocratic state without any relations with democracy. Israel is a democratic state only for their citizens, but it is a criminal state against Palestinians, even Palestinians inside Israel. And unfortunately, the world is believing that Israel is a democratic state, and they are closing eyes, seeing all these crimes committed by Israeli governments during all these years from the moment of establishing Israel. Israel started its life by ethnic cleansing of Palestinians 1948, killing thousands of Palestinians, destroying homes, destroying villages, 100 of villages, Palestinians, which is doing now. Israel is every day demolishing houses in Palestinian territories with any pretext.
Right. It's pretty common knowledge at this point, to anybody who knows the history at least, that the Nakba never really ended. And that, as scholarly research has pointed out, settler colonialism is not just an event, it's a structure and it's a process. And it's intrinsic to the existence of the settler colony of Israel. It's not going to stop so long as the Israeli state exists in its current form. Which is sort of a segue I wanted to bring you to then, because as you yourself said, the prospects for a two-state solution are increasingly small. And it's becoming abundantly clear that even if he doesn't have huge popular support, Netanyahu and the people who toe his political line are going to stay in power, at least in the immediate term. So at what point will those who are advocating for the, purely political solution of a 1967 border Palestinian state and a two-state solution, at what point will there be sort of a reevaluation of that position? And do you think that it's time to strategize for a new vision in terms of what Palestinian liberation could be?
You know, as the situation is like that, as you described, and the possibility of two-state solution is minimizing by Israeli policy and behavior in the Palestinian territories, people started to think about other solutions, about other possibilities. But unfortunately, with the current balance of powers in the region in general and in Palestine, any other solution will not be better than a two-state solution. Someone is talking about one-state solution. If you believe that one state solution now is possible, it will be an apartheid state because Israel has all powers in its hand, and they can control all Palestine as they are doing now, and they are committing a discrimination policy even against Palestinians inside Israel who are citizens of Israel. You can imagine how they will treat Palestinians in West Bank or in Gaza under the Israeli occupation. When someone is talking about one-state solution, they can imagine that it will be a democratic state with equal rights, with one vote for everyone, and some kind of solutions for. But it is not the case. The case is now, if we accept one-state solution now, it will be an apartheid state, which is not in favor of the Palestinian people. And because of that, we can say, even with these difficulties for the two-state solution, if the international community and the United Nations has the power to force Israel to withdraw to the borders of 1967, two-state solution can be achieved. But until now, international community is not willing or cannot do this step, cannot go this step to force Israel to accept the resolutions of UN and to withdraw settlers and forces to the borders of 1967. And because of that, any other solution will not be in favor of the Palestinians if we talk under the reality which is now. But in the future, and taking in consideration what is going around us in the world, maybe some kind of change will occur, and we hope that it will be in favor of Palestinians. But the situation in the region is more negatively toward Palestinians, as you can see that some Arab countries are normalizing relations with Israel without any condition, without solving the Palestinian issue. The Arab Initiative from 2002 in Lebanon was saying that Arabs will normalize relations with Israel after solving the Palestinian issue, with establishing the Palestinian state. But you can see now that 4 or 5 Arab countries normalized without any condition. Now there is negotiations with Saudi Arabia to normalize relations with Israel. Until now, Saudi Arabia is saying that some kind of solution for the Palestinian issue must be before, but nobody can be sure that they will stay on this position. The situation in the region is changing dramatically, in the world is changing dramatically. The internal Palestinian issue is not helping too much the supporters of the Palestinian issue. As you remember, Oslo Agreement and all this situation happened after the collapse of Soviet Union, which was the supporter of the Palestinian struggle. And during the last 30 years, United States was the only power deciding for the future of the world, and they are not in favor of the legitimate rights of Palestinian people. They were supporting all kind of terror crimes of Israeli governments during the last 70 years,
Yeah, and that
unfortunately.
sort of leads me to two different questions. The first of which is, let's talk about the internal Palestinian contradictions that are at play right now. And that's specifically about the Palestinian Authority, which has lost most of its legitimacy, I think it's fair to say, at least amongst the popular support of the Palestinian people. And in 2021, your party actually split with the Palestinian Authority over the killing of Nizar Banat. And I'm wondering now, what is the current line on the Palestinian Authority? And do you personally think that it is a salvageable situation? Can it regain its legitimacy if it ever had any somehow?
You know that after the elections of 2006 and the victory of Hamas and the creation of government by Hamas, there was an international boycott of this government, leading to the division between Hamas and Fatah and between Gaza and West Bank. And from the beginning of the establishment of the Palestinian Authority, we believed that this will lead the Palestinian movement toward the independence and to establishing the Palestinian state. As we said earlier, it was planned for 5 years, from 1994 to 99. But unfortunately, with the behavior of Israel and after the collapse of Soviet Union and socialist countries, and having United States to decide for the future of the world, and after that the wars in the Middle East, the invasion of Iraq, and then the division between Gaza and West Bank remains until now between Hamas and Fatah. And we believe that there is a serious difference between the strategic plans of the two sides. We believe that one coalition between all Palestinian forces with one strategy towards the solution of the Palestinian issue as a national front under occupation can help Palestinians to go forward. We supported the Palestinian Authority in the beginning, and we were a part of the government of Palestinian Authority until 2021, but not only for Nizar Banat. There was a change in the Palestinian society, with Palestinian government not able to support the resistance of Palestinians under occupation, the popular resistance, to help Palestinians to stay in their land and not to migrate out, to stop the settlements in Palestinians. And the important one is the behavior of Palestinian Authority towards the democratic freedoms and the social policy and the economical policy of Palestinian state, which is an anti-popular policy. And because of that, the party decided to withdraw from this government, and it is now in opposition with this government. But as a responsible political party, we support every positive step of the Palestinian government, and we oppose any negative decision or step of Palestinian Authority, because we believe that the main issue now is to help the Palestinians to stay in Palestine, because Israel is aimed to push Palestinians to go out of Palestine, because the ideology of the Zionist movement is having Palestine territory without people. And the main issue now for all Palestinian political forces, in the first place, Palestinian Authority, to help people to stay, to resist, and to exist. Without this, Israel will implement the target, which is Palestine without Palestinians. And because of that, we believe that our relations with the Palestinian Authority is supporting every positive step and opposing every negative decision or step or policy.
And I'm just curious then, so does that policy of supporting everything that is positive also extend to the resistance groups that we see in the West Bank that are actively repelling these armed incursions by settlers, such as the Lion's Den and the PIJ, and also the resistance groups that are in Gaza, the most prominent one being Hamas?
we believe that Palestinians under occupation have the right for resistance, but Palestinians have to choose that the tool and the way how to resist according to the situation. And because of that, with this huge difference in power between Palestinians and Israel, even in Gaza, that the popular resistance is the first choice for now. But as the people is seeing that there is no progress, no hope, they are losing any hope that there will be a political solution or any optimism for the future. There is some Palestinian groups who use this kind of resistance. But we can see that the losses among Palestinians are huge. And because of that, we believe that we must sit on the table and discuss the strategy, how to resist, and to decide in which way and in which better way with less losses among Palestinians and to have better results. It is we can understand the people, but the popular resistance, as we believe now, is can be and must be the first choice for Palestinians.
I totally agree. And so then within this broad tapestry, because you also referenced how the collapse of the Soviet Union set back the international advocacy for Palestine, right? That the USSR was one of the largest advocates for the Palestinian cause. What role then does the Palestinian left play today in a post-Soviet world? And is there any hope, do you think, then, with the recent developments of multipolarity that are springing about as the US empire sort of begins its hegemonic decline?
As you said, that Soviet Union and the socialist countries were the biggest supporters of not only Palestinians. They were supporters of all the peoples in the world for their rights and for self-determination, and they were supporting the struggle of Palestinians to establish an independent Palestinian state within the borders of 1967 with East Jerusalem as its capital. Soviet Union was supporting Palestinians in all fields, in diplomatically in the United Nations, politically and economically, and even with weapons for the Palestinian struggle when they were in Lebanon and in Jordan. But after 1982, after withdrawal of PLO from Lebanon, Palestinians was divided in many countries. They went to Tunisia, to Algeria, to Yemen, and this kind of struggle was impossible to achieve goals. And because of that, Palestinians 1987 started the popular uprising, the first Palestinian uprising, the Intifada, which had a good results for the Palestinians and created a huge problems for Israel. And after that, because the international community started to talk about that and to have negotiations, and they had negotiations in Washington and in Madrid then, and resulting with the Oslo Agreement. But after the collapse, we lost the back. We lost the support of Soviet Union and United States were the monopoly who was deciding for the future of the world. And Palestinians are not in the plan of Americans to solve the problem, but they were all these years supporters of all crimes of Israeli governments, different Israeli governments. And because of that, we achieved to have now even Oslo Agreement or Oslo Accords, which was not a solution, Israel to destroy it. Israel from Oslo Agreement now wants only the security part, to have the Palestinian Authority to secure Israeli forces inside Palestinian territories, which is not Oslo Agreement as Palestinians was imagining, which will be. We Palestinians believed that until 99 they will have a state, but now we are in 2023 without land where the state will be, because Israel now is annexing and building settlements in the territories where the Palestinian state will be. And because of that, there was no hope for solution. And when the hope is lost, any reactions can be understood. And because of that, there is many kinds of actions from the Palestinian side. Unfortunately, also the Palestinian left, losing the support of Soviet Union, are not in better situation. Now, Palestinian left parties are not too strong to have a good influence in the policy of the Palestinian Authority. They are not united. They are not so strong, and because of that, the influence of the political parties is not too big in the decisions of the Palestinian Authority. Even the biggest party in Palestine, which is Fatah, is not so happy with all decisions of the Palestinian Authority.
Yeah, and that was something I also wanted to circle back to. Is you mentioned that part of the reason for the split from the Palestinian Authority was also driven by its social and economic policies. Can you just briefly expound upon what those were?
You know that under this situation in Palestine, and under these difficulties which the Palestinian people are facing under occupation, they need a social and economical policy to help them to stay, to help them to survive, which is not the case with the policy of Palestinian Authority. Palestinian Authority is behaving and supporting the new liberal economical policy. The so-called capital is having everything in their hands, and the masses are suffering. The masses are suffering economically, and except the democratic rights, except the freedoms of Palestinians, except the lack of elections, because we didn't have election from 2006. 2005 we had presidential elections, and 2006 we have parliamentary or for the legislative council. Until now we didn't have elections. People are demanding democratic rights, behaviors, and political rights, and they want Palestinian Authority government to have policy to support the agriculture, to support the resistance of the Palestinian to stay in their hand, to exist in the Palestinian land, which is not the case. And because of that, we believe that this policy is not helping Palestinians to exist and to resist the Israeli policy in all aspects, economically and socially and democratically. And because of that, we believe that this policy has to be changed. This government cannot continue with this policy, and we demand the change of policy, not the change of persons and faces. We believe that one common strategy, after a political dialogue between all Palestinian forces to decide what and how to go forward.
Oh, and that's, I think, a fantastic note to end on. So once again, Dr. Taqaz, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. And I hope that the situation improves soon. I think that, I'm personally feeling a bit more optimistic in terms of at least seeing how the colonial entity is flailing and collapsing on itself pretty
You know
poorly at
that
the moment.
after all this, I can assure you that one thing is sure, that Palestinian struggle will continue. Palestinian people will continue their struggle until achieving their goals for independence, for their legitimate rights, for establishing a Palestinian state within the borders of 67 with East Jerusalem as capital, and for the rights of refugees to return homes. And we believe that international solidarity with the Palestinian people is needed always, and without this solidarity, Palestinian people will feel alone and it will not help. And because the Palestinian people will continue, the solidarity with the Palestinian people has also to continue, and we count on your solidarity with the solidarity of all democratic and progressive people all over the world, and all the peoples who believes in human rights and the rights of people for self-determination. And because of that, from our side, from Palestinian side, the Palestinian people will continue the struggle, and we hope that solidarity also will continue.